Greetings and welcome to the newest Stingycast, the greatest podcast ever. Super professional. I am your host, James Bauer. I am joined this week by Matt Atkins.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. What games are you playing these days, Matt?
I am playing Titanfall. I am playing some Destiny. And I'm still playing a little bit of StarCraft 2.
You still playing StarCraft 2?
Yeah, just a little bit, though.
I kind of don't believe that, but okay, we'll move on. We'll move on to our next guest, Ethan.
Hello.
Ethan Rivette. What are you playing these days, Ethan?
Recently I've been playing the Portal games, Portal 1, Portal 2, well, the orange box technically for Xbox 360, and Destiny as well.
Destiny? Really?
Indeed.
Well, that's interesting, because I kind of want to talk about Destiny. You guys have both played Destiny, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have not. I've heard a lot about it, though.
Oh, you haven't played Destiny? What games have you been playing?
Thanks for asking, Ethan. And derailing this train of thought. But, I've been playing, I bought Shadow of Mordor, which is not super recent, but I did play it, loved it. So I wanted to give a shout out.
That's the orc game, right?
It's the orc game. And it's very good.
How to train your orc.
It's not like, a lot of people were like, it's a second coming kind of thing, but it was good. Very good. I would recommend it. And I recently bought Advanced Warfare, the newest Call of Duty game. And I'm okay with it. I have the PC version, whatever. I don't want to get into this because there were issues with the PC port. But otherwise, it's a fun game. So Destiny, a game I have not played, and I have to awkwardly segue back into. So what are your thoughts on it? I hear it's always online, right? And that's controversial.
Unfortunately, yes.
So you don't like that it's always online? Either?
I don't. I remember when the Xbox One was initially being marketed, their big thing, they were initially going to say that you always had to be online. There was only going to be like digital copies or whatnot, and the Kinect was always on or always connected. It was built in, and so then it failed as a marketing strategy so poorly, and it didn't help that Sony really jumped on it. Sony was saying how they weren't going to do any of that. So then things really started to sway in their favor. So then Microsoft reneged on the whole issue. But my point is, it's not really giving us back the not always online feature if all the best-selling games for it are going to force you to always be online anyway. And it's not only an issue. For me, it's partially an issue because it's like, oh, what if I want to play the game while I'm not online? That's only half the battle. The big part of it that's frustrating to me is if you don't have a really good network setup or you have an average network setup, sometimes your network will kick you off. And so you lose your connection. And the way that the game handles it, at least last time I was playing it, is not graceful. You just get cut straight out of your mission and you might lose quite a bit of progress. And that can be really frustrating at times.
So I don't know much about Destiny, to be honest. But it's not single player, though, right? You're always playing with other people. Is that correct?
No, yes, it is it's like a new genre game. They're trying to mix MMO. Oh, should I?
No, go for it.
They're trying to mix MMO with first-person shooter. Some people are calling them action first-person shooter.
Wait, action first-person shooter?
Or no, an action RPG.
Okay.
Or a shared shooter, things like that. And some people are calling them, it's always online, or an online shooter. Mm-hmm. And what they do, how they've done that is there's your typical multiplayer where you shoot other people. That's always been around. But then it's basically an MMO, and there's character building, and then there's these missions that you're trying to accomplish, or quests basically that you're trying to accomplish. But then you're joined with other people who are real people, playing at the same time, playing the same thing, but then they'll go into these dark areas where you are then by yourself, and then those are the parts that you accomplish alone.
Or with just your team.
Oh, really? So it'd be at that point you're a co-op game,
yeah.
Okay.
Because that was
people in your party,
mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
That's my understanding of the game. It was basically it's sort of forced co-op. You never really, it's not really a single player game, which would make sense. Seriously, that's why I think always online is, for certain games. Personally, I feel any game can do it, and it doesn't bother me. But, for a game like this, which is clearly multiplayer focused, forcing somebody to be online is not the worst thing in the world. I mean, what are we really losing here? I guess just like the LAN play, the direct connect play of Xbox, like we used to do with Halo and stuff like that.
Right, that's part of it. I would like to state my actual stance of it is I'm actually very grateful for this game, for this, because it is forging out a new genre. It's maybe a mixture of genres, but it's a niche game, and I'm really glad for it because it's going to progress games to really it's going to progress them forward, and I really enjoy that about it. But what I dislike about it is I don't think it assumes too much about where we are from a foundational and technological, infrastructural part. Like people don't have, not everyone who's playing is there yet with the infrastructure. If infrastructure was 100%, I'd be all for always online.
So you're saying not enough people have the internet. This is the Stone Age, and nobody has the internet.
Or not a reliable enough internet, or the hardware, and not reliable enough hardware in order to accomplish something where it's like you could lose, like there's a risk factor now that's involved because of infrastructure.
I guess. I don't know. This is something I've always had trouble with because I think we live in an area with pretty good infrastructure as far as that goes. So we've always had pretty good internet speeds. Our cable speeds are pretty good. But I realize not everywhere, either in the world or even in the United States, there are places that it's harder to get good connections, get good internet speeds. The best you can do is satellite or dial-up or something. So it is hard to say. Hard for me to come down anywhere but anecdotally. And for me, anecdotally, I think it's totally acceptable to require somebody to have a good connection always at all times to play a game. I think we've come to the point, I think the infrastructure is there. I think pretty much everybody does have, again, this is totally anecdotal, I have no stats to back this up, but maybe this is like a first world thing, I don't know, but who doesn't have the internet at this point and have good access? Ethan doesn't have the internet at this point, or have good access at all times. I don't know. I think it's okay to expect that of people.
And I'm glad that it does, because I think we should not limit progression from the weakest parts of the chain. Should not limit
lowest
progression. I think it's a good. I think there's a okay medium right now. I just fear that we eventually swing too far one way, where eventually they're like, "What? You don't have a T3 connection? So now you randomly get dropped out and you lose all this stuff. You can't even play our game on the system anymore." So
yeah, fair enough. And those things come up, and those are growing pains as I see it, though. Those are things you have to accept those for now, and we'll get to the place where that won't be an issue anymore.
Yeah, and that's me coming from a console gamer. I don't even know if this is an issue as a PC gamer. What if they start assuming, that there's a certain amount of requirements required of a PC always when you're going to play a game. Mm-hmm. They expect you to have certain processing power, certain graphics card power. And
honestly, always online has been a thing on PC for a long time now. That's old news. And that's actually when the Xbox One was launching and they were talking about that type of stuff. That's why it didn't bother me in the least. Right. And I was actually quite angry when they reneged on that, because I think there were a lot of advancements to come out of that they just shelved and then, in favor of really bad marketing. They just really sold it in a poor way, in my opinion. I think there were a lot of good things that could come out of always online, and the idea of getting rid of physical media, going, doing everything through digital downloads and through that kind of a store. But they handled it so poorly between that and people talking about used games. They just did such a bad job of explaining the benefits of digital media versus physical media. But let's get back to that.
Yeah. Speaking of the digital versus physical media, Matt and I actually went to the Destiny's midnight release to get a physical copy. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience?
With the physical copy?
With the,
It's good. It's nice.
With the release.
It's a very shiny case.
We got some swag.
Really?
Yeah, I got a poster.
Bam!
Oh, wow, cool.
We each got some armbands.
He's showing me an armband.
Had a free Red Bull.
Posters.
Yeah, I got the poster.
I've never gotten that at a midnight release.
Yeah, I never got one either.
Well, this one was super hype, that's for sure. Talked to some gamers there, and I've researched it a little bit. supposedly Activision came out quoting that the development cost of Destiny was like $500 million. And Bungie has responded saying that the development cost was not that. They can't speak towards the total cost of the budget, but as far as development's concerned, that was nowhere near $500 million. Mm. But they also, while we were waiting in line, people were mentioning like, oh yeah, this has been in development since Halo 2, and now, I don't know about Halo 2, but in Halo 3, in ODST, there's a sign that says Destiny awaits. So it was in development before ODST.
Wow.
So that's at least more than half a decade.
Yeah, that's interesting, that number, that budget number, which probably includes marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but.
Well, they had Dinklage.
Oh, right. That's
voice of the
$300
ghost.
million right there.
Another $200 million went to Led Zeppelin.
Really? Is that
Yeah,
interesting?
Marketing and everything, yeah.
That's funny. Games are the budgets are getting so huge. Just an aside, little anecdote here. The game DC Universe Online was a really expensive game for Sony, but it sold really well. I think it broke records for their highest selling online game, but it still failed as a game because it cost so much to make that they not only had to make record sales, but also have record retention rates from an MMO. So really, from a business standpoint, that game was almost never going to succeed, and it just strikes me as odd. Games like Destiny, like, can they possibly make that money back?
Absolutely.
You think so?
I thought they broke record on just for their opening day.
Oh wow!
It's like the highest grossing game of all time.
Oh, good for them. Yeah. What do you think of it?
Yeah. Is it the best game you've ever played?
Absolutely.
It must be.
Is it the next coming? As people in line were saying that this was going to be a revolutionary game.
It seemed like it when we were getting the game, but it's anybody that's played about an hour of it will see that it's not. All this online stuff is good that they're doing, but they haven't. My biggest gripe is that they haven't utilized the MMO area that they could be. They've taken the grindy parts of the MMO, but they haven't applied the benefits of it, such as like a team search or anything like that. Mm-hmm. There's no matchmaking for your missions. There's none for your for the raid that was released. We have this Forest Online, but no way to take advantage of it really. There's no trading. All this stuff. It's a shame, really, because it has, you shouldn't have to rely on third-party applications to do your stuff for you, but maybe that's part of the genius of it all, is that they knew that the community would find a way to band together around it and make it work. The other thing that aggravates me, third-party, is that their app is where their story is, and that's just not.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
It's not a very feasible way to keep people retained, for what story, I'm still searching for it.
So you said there's no matchmaking?
There's no matchmaking. There's 4, well, if you got the PlayStation version, there's probably 5 strikes, I believe. But was it 5? 1, 2, there's 5 on the Xbox, and I believe 6 on the PlayStation. PlayStation gets exclusive content.
Nice.
Not nice, because I'm an Xbox gamer. And I'm going to have to pay the same price for the DLC that's coming up as the PlayStation guys, but they're going to still get these features that I'm not going to see for another year at least. So, you had said
the matchmaking. So how do you find people to play with?
Well, the multiplayer is matchmaking, but the co-op, like the story area, the PvE, does not. The strikes do, and there's playlists for that.
And a strike is a
strike is a instance. Think of it as like I wouldn't say a raid on like a small scale, but in Destiny it pretty much is. It's like a mission. You dropped it here, go kill this bad guy. And it's way over on the other side of the world.
Got it.
Maybe you'll fight some guys, hold off some sieges on the way there. Mm-hmm. It's all pretty the same. So
that's what I hear. I hear it's very repetitive, which is we were talking about advancing the genre into this MMO territory, and from a long time MMO player, from a PC guy perspective, which is mine, you don't want to go in MMO territory because really what you get is, like you were mentioning, MMO really equals grind. The entire point of MMO is you take a normal game's amount of content and then you have to stretch it out so that people play for extended periods of time, which is fine because it's supposed to be a social experience more than even the gameplay. Like, in WoW, it's not like the game's all that hot. It's about the people who play with you and that kind of thing. But Destiny, it's a first-person shooter, and that's the fun part. The shooting is the fun part.
Yeah. And,
so why would you want to grind that and stretch that experience? Is not.
And that really has been like the big problem with it is that I know Ethan had said there's character upgrades and stuff like that, but in the end, what does it come down to? It comes down to playing the same missions over and over to get your experience, to then level your character, to unlock new abilities, which in the end are almost the same across the board as the other character classes. And that's one other thing. The characters are pretty similar in how they handle their combat, which I guess isn't a bad thing for balance, but some more customization would be nice. The other thing that happens is your armor and your guns, to level them up, you have to. I'm sure everybody that's played Destiny knows that you have to get these common materials. But really, what it equates to is you have to run around in the same area in a big circle for about an hour to get these, find these chests that contain these or harvest these materials in the wild.
How's the competitive aspect with like the differences in levels and you can get better or worse guns? Like, so how does that get evened out?
In the multiplayer, that doesn't even matter. They everything's dumbed down to a common scale.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And it is. And then the other thing they did is the Iron Banner event, which they released post-launch, which is pretty much your level does matter. And I heard that it didn't matter so much the first time around, but the second time it's going on right now, it does matter a little bit much. It's like 30 taking a punch from a 20 is going to be able to shrug it off and KO them. I haven't played the Iron Banner. I'm not big into the multiplayer in Destiny and the competitive multiplayer in Destiny, but everybody seems to enjoy it from what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of it, and whereas I didn't have that negative of an experience, it felt very dumbed down and simplex versus other matchmaking first-person shooters.
Are you talking about just the regular Crucible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm talking about like the different. There's different game types for Crucible. I played mainly like land grabs and things like that, but mainly it was like most people are choosing the same type with the same type of person with the same weapons. There's not a good rock, paper, scissors. There's not a good balance.
You have to use the auto rifle, and you're most likely going to choose a warlock.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's no good.
And it's not because it's I wouldn't say. With the case of the weapons, yeah, the weapons are imbalanced. Okay. It's you either use an auto rifle, maybe a hand cannon, but with the characters, there's a little bit more diversity. Mm-hmm. But everybody, I complain about warlocks all the time. The warlocks complain about the hunters, and then nobody complains about the titans until they get smashed down in a control match.
Yeah, I do suppose it somewhat depends on the game type you're playing, as is like loadouts in other games. But
sure.